What is something that your parents did that you swore never to repeat to your own kids? Never actually saying I love you. Yep, never once heard my parents say these words. I make sure my son knows I love him every single day. He's 20 and probably tired of it, but too bad. Be unapproachable. Come talk to me anytime about anything. Everything can be fixed. My son hides things from his mom and waits until he can tell me because she won't respond appropriately. He lost a video game and was lying to her about having lost it, but was so scared that she would find out he was lying. He told me in the car when I picked him up, and I told her I needed to look for something of his that he wanted. All he ended up doing was having it wedged in his game case where he couldn't see it. My 6-year-old was giving himself anxiety because of a stupid Nintendo Switch game because his mom would have belittled and spanked him instead of helping look for it. It breaks my heart. Edit. We're divorced. Biggest fattest lie my mom ever told me. Always told me I could trust her with anything. The time came when I wanted to come out as bi. Told me that I was a sexual deviant and can take care of myself from now on since I was thinking of sex. Practically had to beg and kiss her feet to not kick me out. I said it was all a lie. Mind you, I was 17 at the time. The worst part is that she claimed that my sexuality depressed her because she wanted a daughter to fuck a man and have kids. I don't know if I'll ever fuck a man nor do I want kids. Refused to admit I was wrong. The only semblance of an apology I've ever received from my mother was, "I'm sorry you feel that way." I don't think she's ever actually apologized or taken blame for her actions in my 30-odd conscious years. Really poor food choices. Same. I was raised on Hot Pockets and those instant lunch cups. Tell me I depress them when I confide in them. Sorry dude. When I came out about it, my mom blamed me and said, "Why are you doing this to me like I made up 10 plus years of depression to get at her or something?" It's not a good feeling and I get it. Constantly comparing myself to other people's kids and belittling my own achievements. That's just the equivalent of comparing your parents' wages, house or job with other kids' parents. When I was little, when my dad was doing anything out in the yard, my brother and I would ask if we could help. The answer was always you can help by staying out of the way. My kids are always allowed to help, and so feel they can contribute, grow a sense of self-worth, and an appreciation of group effort. Teaching them by comparing them to their own better behaved smarter siblings, in a very condescending manner. OFC sheet, I was compared to other people's kids, insert other kid's name, would never do that to their parent. Lecture, my mom could go on for hours for even small misbehaviors. Somehow, it usually looped around to how I didn't keep my room clean, even though the rest of the house was just as much of a mess or worse. When I need to have a stern or serious discussion with my kids, I force myself to make my point in 5 minutes or less. I've even said stuff like, "Look, this is taking way too long, just don't do this loud thing again." Okay, I also apologize if I yell as soon as I am emotionally able to after an angry outburst. I don't remember mom ever doing that. Minimize anything they pursue. Edit. Hey, thanks for the award, that's so kind. My mother would absolutely burn down any dream I had as a kid. Singer? Well, that's nice, but it will never happen. Gymnast? We can't afford that, but she never went without beer, weed, or smokes. I was 12. Of course it wasn't gonna happen, but Jesus woman, a little support. Get loaded in front of them. Growing up in a family of drunks has soured me for the most part to drinking even socially. I do partake occasionally but not often. Deep down I feel alcoholism is in my genetics, so I steer clear unless the occasion is perfect. Man, I'm struggling so much with this. Borderline alcoholic. Once I start, I find it very hard to stop. Day 5 of being sober. Edit. Wow guys. I woke up for work this morning and my inbox was chock full of supportive messages. Some awards. Means a lot. I will not drink today. Thank you. Not be affectionate. My mom was very distant and not a physically emotional person with me growing up. I realized that if I have kids I'd want to read to them, hug them, celebrate their accomplishments, overall have them feel comfortable with me to share their thoughts or feelings. My husband expressed one time how his family wasn't a hugger type family when he grew up, and so he hugs me all the time. When my youngest was little he was is a total man's boy and would get jealous and run in between us, which would lead to the eldest and the dog joining the fun. This has led to hug time. Exactly like the Trolls movie. Someone calls hug time. That's it, you drop everything and hug. The dog even knows this statement. Wake them from a dead sleep on a school night to introduce them to my drunk friends I just came home with because I'm a bartender. Oh shit, you reminded me of another one. I will never get drunk and make my son come find me and bring me home in the middle of the night before his high school finals. I will never make him bail me out of jail using personal favors. Threads like this make me want to say I'll never do anything that my mother did, but that simplifies a very complicated feeling. When my mother loved me, I felt like the greatest person in the world. It's complicated. Because I said so, I always have a reason why I ask them to do something. If they ask why, I'll explain. I'll explain my reason, my reasons for my reason, various other factors I considered. I can go on for a while. They know this. The other day I asked my 7-year-old to do something. She said why. I thought about it for a second. I asked, is because I said so a good enough reason? She thought about it for a second, said, yeah, for about 3 seconds. I felt like I nailed parenting. Beat me up. Child has black eyes from beatings. Father, you have your mother's eyes. As a victim of severe childhood trauma and abuse, I laughed out loud and got sad. If you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. That was stupid to me at 10 years old. My dad used to say that to me when I was younger, but instead I'd just cry more and he just gave up. I also would tattle on him to my mom and she'd get after him. He never actually did anything. Use them as leverage against the other parent. Abuse them. Allow them to be abused by a significant other. Abandon them, then return years later once they've grown and try to cause them as much pain as possible for who knows why. I have 4 sons and I genuinely can't imagine doing most of what happened to me to them. Blows my mind. Try to be controlling over my kids' life and blame all their problems on the other parent. I won't scorn them or yell at them when they mess up. I was a really sensitive kid, so when my parents told me to go to hell or called me a fucking moron, it tore at me and distorted my self-image. If I have kids, I can't imagine ever doing to them what my parents did to me. Edit. This was my parents' attempt to get me to grow thicker skin. But words hurt. One thing led to another and depression began to take its hold. And at such a young age too. The thought of depression and self-hatred that required therapy sessions to manage terrified me. Thankfully, they took the hint and settled down, and I still keep in touch with them. I was not allowed to have any friends or date. Also, I had my door taken off at 14 and told I didn't deserve privacy because I slammed it. Guilt tripping, physical and emotional abuse. Edit. I asked to hang a sheet up for privacy AMD. They said I didn't deserve privacy for slamming my door. I had my first ever panic attack that way and my stepdad told me to stop over exaggerating. My depression and anxiety was always belittled. I was in a mental hospital and my dad and stepmom came to see me, and my stepmom just kept telling me what a horrible person I was and that I was just there to get away from her. Also, my stepdad would call me a slut and punish me for things my brother did. He also molested me on several occasions, and when I told my mom, he convinced her I was lying. He told me my feelings didn't matter, but if my kid ever came forward and said something like that about my spouse, I would just not believe them and accuse them of lying. I'm 32. When I was 14, my dad shot himself, leaving my mum with 4 kids, 14, 12, 3 and 1. 3 years ago my brother hung himself. He was going to be 18 1 year ago. My mum committed suicide while I was heavily pregnant with my girl. I couldn't fly to her funeral. I have 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old. This got longer than I was planning to make it. I've learned never say never in regards to parenting, but I never want to put my kids through what my parents put my siblings and I through. Edit. I never thought my comment would get so much attention. In reading every reply, but I can't respond to all of them. Just know that I am so grateful for the outpouring of love and support you've shown me and those who have lost others to suicide. For those that are thinking of it, you are loved, worthy, and I'm sorry. Please message me if you ever need to talk to someone.